Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Let's Talk Game podcast. Dan made the joke last week that we're old enough to drink now, so I'm not going to make the same one. Video games,
Well,
gentlemen.
at the time where it is where you are, you could have a drink.
I could, but I chose not to. I went for dinner last night, so we had drinks. We actually went out and ventured into society and real life and ate in a restaurant. It was an experience. So yeah, no drinks this evening.
You're the problem.
I'm the problem.
I was drinking before it was legal anyway.
I think pretty sure we all were, not condoning alcohol intake before you're a big enough boy, but
No.
be sensible, make good choices. Daniel, start us off.
Yes.
What video games have you played this week?
It was a quiet week again for me, boys. But I'm like, I have to play something. Otherwise, I'm going to have another week of not talking about anything. So what I did last night, I downloaded a small little game, little indie game no one's heard of, Grand Theft Auto 3 on the PlayStation. And I played around on Grand Theft Auto for a while.
Wow.
God, it's amazing how you jump into those old games, a game that I have not played in years and years and years and years, and you just know the map inside and out. Like, I actually kind of hoped I could go into the options and just turn off the mini map and just see if I could get, when they say, "Oh, get to Luigi's or get to Joey's," I could just drive there. Because that was a nice little blast from the past.
Nice.
Still don't know what my favorite Grand Theft Auto game is. Because Grand Theft Auto 3 was the first one I got into, and that what actually got me into liking like gangster and mafia movies and content because of the whole start of that game with the Italian mafia. So that was it was a nice little blast from the past. But yeah, not much this week. I think my psyche is just getting ready for Ghost of Tsushima.
And are you day one in that? Day one for Ghost?
Yeah. Day one for Ghost. Doing the same thing, taking off the Monday, 3-day weekend. I'm ready.
Awesome.
Get it in your bones. Chunt, what have you played?
Look, I've tried more Witcher 3. I've actually put a little bit of time in. The last thing I did was resurrect a dead baby monster creature thing. And it led me around this town discovering things. It was a bit weird. But yeah, I still don't know what to think of the game. Like I've said it a few times now, I'm not feeling it. I don't know what it is. I see this awesome looking game. There's lots to do and it's polished, but I just don't give a shit. It's just not getting it. The combat's crap. It's not fun. I'm really playing it just for the interactions with the characters and just to see what happens with the story. But I don't know if I can do a 20-hour stint of that. If it's just, wandering around. Yeah, as I said to you guys recently, I'm only playing it because a mate of mine I've known, since grade 3, has been trying to convince me to play this game for the last 10 years. And now it's like, what is so good about this game? That might be blasphemous to some people, but I don't want to disappoint him. So I'm just playing it out of respite. But yeah, otherwise, I've got 400,000 bells left until I pay off my basement. I'm still doing it.
You managed to find
Almost
time to cross some animals. Fair enough.
Yep, an hour a day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Witcher. So I don't feel bad. Because I played it for 4 hours around the time it came out, and I just couldn't do it anymore. But I mean, I'm a little different to you. I don't actually think the gameplay is that bad. I think it's the combat is not more like an Arkham combat than it is a Dark Souls combat. Like it's more fluid. Like it's fluid. It's still slow, but it's fluid. And but I just couldn't get into it either. So don't feel bad. But as long as you gave it to go.
Good. Yeah, I'm thinking about just walking away. I've got other shit to play, but I think it's that time period of game. I've never really been a fan of it. Like I can watch Lord of the Rings, I can watch The Witcher show, but when I play a game in that kind of time period or setting, I just get so bored. And Skyrim and Oblivion were the last kind of games that I really enjoyed playing in that type of game. And or Diablo 3, like that era, kind of fantasy oldie times. Just not getting it. I've Titanfall 2 is next on my backlog list after this, and I'm more like I just want to get in and get that done because that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun and more my thing. But real first world problem. These are the problems I'm dealing with in isolation right now. Yeah.
You'll cane that in a weekend. Titanfall for sure.
Yeah.
Titanfall 2 is only about 6 hours.
I want to do that this weekend. I want to finish something.
That sounds amazing, having a 6-hour thing.
Yeah, I know,
don't
right?
persevere with 30 hours if you've got no interest in the content you're playing. Witcher does get better. I know the bit you've obviously just done, like the whole resurrecting the Baron's baby and everything, like it is a bit mental. I think it builds from there, but yeah, if you're not sold by now, you're probably not going to be. In all honesty,
they need a Henry Cavill mod.
There probably is one on PC.
Like,
you're playing on Xbox, aren't you?
There are. Yeah.
Although your PC parts are arriving, that's interesting news.
Yes. One Piece. It's happening.
One piece at a time. Well, I've played Destiny, as obvious I would have done.
Wow, no way.
They weirdly feel like they've just started a new season. The whole seasonal model where something new happens and it's like, oh, I'll play this for 3 weeks and now I'm bored and I don't want to play it anymore. They had like another moment where it's like, this feels like a new season, but it's not because we're only 3 weeks into it. So they've kind of got the spread of content right. It's pretty cool. More pyramid ships arrived. All about that. If you go into any of the skyboxes now, you can just see pyramids in the sky. Like, it's dope as fuck.
Oh.
Mercury and Mars look particularly amazing as you land and turn around, and then there's just this Goliath of a pyramid ship above your head. It's pretty awesome. I caved and did the whole Persona 4 Golden thing, so casually playing through that on PC. It looks beautiful, man. Like, I played that game on a Vita in like 360p or something, and now I've got it in like 1440 ultra wide just because I can. I was like, do I play it in 4K? I was like, no, I'm just going to play it in ultra wide just for the sake of it. It's not going to benefit from HDR. And I've been carrying on with Beyond. Become, what the fucking hell is it called? Detroit. Become Human is where I was going with my brain. But yeah, Detroit. That's building nicely now. Quite enjoying that. And played a little bit more Assassin's Creed Odyssey because I felt like doing some assassinating after watching some footage of some assassinating over this last week. Did either of you watch that? It's not on the topic list, but just as a kind of a thought, have you seen anything of this Valhalla leak, or have you steered clear?
I've steered clear.
Yeah, steered clear. It was only like, at that point, I think there was like 12 days until the Ubisoft thing, and I was like, I can wait. That's fine. But like, this will come up later, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see Valhalla. So I'm just happy to wait.
I'm just curious if it's that demo we're going to see, but the Ubisoft thing is obviously a conversation for later. I just thought while I was mentioning Odyssey, it was worth asking you. It was like a 720p render. It didn't look good on anything. I even tried looking at it on a phone going, this is a tiny screen. I'll do it in 720. It wasn't fun. But yes, so this week we have got topics of stuff which is happening. And something that we discussed earlier in the week amongst ourselves was all of these articles that we're seeing about Nielsen being a kind of analytical body, if we like, shall we call them that. I've been sending out emails to people in the UK and in Europe, benching different prices for the PlayStation 5, and a lot of these were then being leaked, not leaked, just divulged to the general public, and we saw some wacky ass prices coming out for what this PlayStation 5 might cost. I weirdly think it's doable, but I guarantee that both of you are going to think that they're chatting absolute gibberish, and there's no way that they can sell a console for £259, was it? For the all digital version. So what's the thinking here, Dan? I think you've probably done a bit more research on this one, so we'll come to you first.
Yeah, well, my thoughts looking at it was this like these prices were ridiculous. Do you want to actually bring up what the prices were, Jamie? So by the time it gets to you,
I think it was so $259.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at it, I reckon the way I see it is that they're trying to, if 100% of people will say, yeah, I'll buy a console for that price, then what you do is you then do another bunch of surveys and higher the price and figure out where the sweet spot is of enough people to buy it at the most expensive as they can go before it becomes like people just turned off by it. Because there's no point in selling a product that 100% of people want to buy it for. Like if it's $150 and everyone's like, yeah, I'll buy that. Well, then you go higher. You go higher until you can't break it anymore. And I think obviously there's a lot of people that will say, I won't buy that because they're not even looking for a console or don't care, or it's still too expensive at this point in time because a lot of people are out of a job. But I still think we're going to end around the same amount. If those prices are realistic, I mean, this might be the cheapest console launch ever. If Xbox is still going to undercut it, it's going to be a ridiculously cheap console launch, and that'd be fun. But I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think the point of it comes where you go, like you're saying, it is doable. If you look at the manufacturing cost, it just means that the companies are going to have to swallow a lot of money, and it's how much they're willing to swallow on every console. We've covered before, obviously, our thoughts around how they do that, and I personally think the digital edition makes sense. You can drop the price on the digital edition more than any other because you get everything back in services. You know what I mean? You can't just go buy a used disc or a secondhand game. Like, you're tied to that storefront. You can make your money back that way. So that part makes sense. But yeah, the prices were $259 for the digital and $349, and we're talking Great British pounds of monies. So yeah, $259 or $349 for the disc version, which does seem ludicrous because that's cheaper than what the PlayStation 4 launched at over here, which is madness.
And also that reminds me where, it is starting to irritate me where all these articles are coming out like, would Sony take a $50 loss on a console, or, they need to make a profit? I'm like, the PlayStation 4 was the first time they ever made a profit of just selling the console. Every other console they've ever put out, they lost money on selling the hardware straight up, and then they make the profit back in games. The PlayStation 3 was more, they lost, especially the launch price, they were at a loss of over $200 for every console that they sold. They were losing, the cost price was $200 more than what they were selling it for. And then eventually when they did the revamp and did the slimmer model, that brought it back to only being like $50 at a loss, like a year later or 2 years later. So these companies will take a hit if they have to. It's not uncommon. It's just we're coming out of a generation where I'm not sure about the Xbox or how much that one costs, but I know with the PlayStation 4, it was the first time that they sold a console and they were making a profit straight off the bat, which was unheard of for them. So I wish I'd stop reading it in articles everywhere.
Yeah, that's starting to grind me a little bit. Like the shit I'll get off the pot thing. Like if these questions are being put out, then Sony, obviously, they've told us they're not set on a price yet. They've said they don't know, they need to remain agile. Microsoft are saying the same thing. So obviously these companies are testing the waters, sending out surveys and, holding focus groups and all the rest of it to try and hit a benchmark, which during these times is probably smart. They still want to ship millions of units, and given, like you said, I don't know what the situation ever is there for you guys, but we're about to lose something like 9.5 million jobs over here, which is outrageous. You know, once all this calms down, it's going to affect people's livelihoods. People are not necessarily going to have money knocking around for a PlayStation 5. So how do you get it into more homes? You make it cheaper. Simple. Chunt, you got any insight or analysis for this?
Well,
or
I
a
don't
curb
know
stomp?
what those yeah, I don't know what those British pounds convert into Australian monies, but it sounds like it's going to be more manageable. And Dan's right. I mean, they've always had to lose money on these consoles. I mean, back when the original Xbox, it cost them, a couple billion to actually get into the game, and that didn't sell like a lot, and it did well, like 40 something plus million units or whatever. And then with the 360, that cost them $1 billion just to fix the red ring issue, So and that was successful. At least at parity with the PS3 at the end of it. Like, they were the leader for a while. We all know that history. And then the Xbox One just had its run. They probably didn't make money on that console either. So yeah, it's all on services. So I agree. I'm sick of the speculation of like, are they gonna wear the costs? So, well, for the most part, besides Nintendo, they're always copying it with the hardware. So it's a moot point, but it's interesting to know, I guess, there's going to be a entry level console for both PlayStation and Xbox, and that's fine. More people can play it. I think that's as long as the conversation goes. If there's a cheaper option for people that either can't afford the bigger one or don't want to pay that much, then there's another one for you. Whoop-de-doo. Done.
Yeah, be happy for the human. You heard it here first. Shit or get off the pot, video game companies.
Yes.
It is really starting to wear thin, this whole drip feed of news. Obviously we've got a lot of it coming up still, but yeah, I'm bored of it by now. Like, I was on this, very on the fence in terms of, was this going to be an enjoyable experience, learning new things every week, but the new things that we're learning are not warranting time. Do you know, time versus what we actually gain.
Well, it's because every company thinks that their thing is the biggest thing that's out there, and therefore everyone is hyping up their stuff, but like, this is the biggest thing. It's like, no, you just put it on the blog. Like, people are just going to keep getting upset the more and more it happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on to the next thing then. So there's a game which a year and a half ago, we started seeing footage of this thing called Genshin Impact. And the first thing that the internet did was went, oh, you're ripping off Breath of the Wild. It's basically a Breath of the Wild clone. It is. It looks like Breath of the Wild. It plays like Breath of the Wild. They even have the little parachute gliding through the sky thing and a stamina meter when you're trying to climb rocks. They're clearly very inspired by Breath of the Wild. This game is coming to PlayStation, to Switch, to PC, to iOS, and to Android. September is its release date. They're having a final beta round at the moment, so well done them for making a video game. But what I'm more interested in is, now we've spoke of crossplay, being impactful across generations of consoles, etc. Like, we're obviously keen for that. We all play on consoles or PCs, etc. This game's going to have crossplay between mobile, Switch, PlayStation, and PC. That's crackers. Like, we're now starting to see mobile gaming crossover with the big boy stuff. And the reason that I think it's interesting is, I don't know if either of you seen much or any of the footage of this game, but the game's massive. It's a full open world, like Japanese JRPG-ish type of game. And when I say full open, I'm talking like Final Fantasy levels of world size. Like, it's massive. One, how on earth does that run on a phone? And two, how cool is it having crossplay for something like that? So, John, I know you probably looked at this when it was all getting Breath of the Wild comparisons. Have you seen anything recently about this shenanigans and news?
I literally only heard about it this morning, and I watched the trailer while we were setting up. That's why I was like, Genshin, what the fuck? That's Japanese. What is this? And but yeah, you're right. Just from what I saw, it's just Breath of the Wild, like everything, even the laser beamy things and the running around and the color palette and the art style ish. Obviously it looks a bit more polished, I'll say, compared, and it looks like the frame rate's a bit smoother too. But look, if this runs on a mobile, I wouldn't be too surprised. I mean, phones these days are more powerful than some basic laptops. Laptops. I can't even talk. Laptops that you can get today.
On the podcast.
Oh, no. Oh, man. And yeah, but I mean, you can play Fortnite on mobile and cross-play with other consoles as well. So it makes, I guess the door has already been opened, and this is just another one. In a world where you can maximize anybody's playing, it's good to see. And if we get more of that, hooray. I was going to say as a parent, but I'm not. Parents, I'm sure, would appreciate more of these games kind of playing on a mobile phone that they can just go give their kid, just go, all right, bugger off, here, take my phone, play a game. I've seen it happen. And that's why I think like services like xCloud and PS Now, if PS Now might be doing the whole streaming thing as well, are going to be pretty powerful when that all comes to fruition. Look, makes sense. I've barely seen enough of the game, but I'm just sore about why it's not coming to Xbox. Japan, what the hell?
Yeah, we discussed that it's probably the Japan thing.
Yeah, like there's a conversation. You've got a good relationship with Phil going. He's always
does it strike you as a game that you'd like to play, Chunt?
No.
No, I was going to say, well, you better keep your Switch because it's going to be free. By the way, did you notice that part?
Oh,
free to play.
No, nice. All right.
So now we might play it.
Well, I've only seen one trailer. I'll have to give it another watch.
I'm just secretly trying to encourage you to want to play it so that we can play together.
Oh, I'll play it for you, Jamie. Yeah, just for you.
Dan, any thoughts on the it's I know for a fact it's not your type of cup of tea kind of game, so we'll steer away from that, but kind of what they're doing in the moving a game like that to mobile. Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I had only just heard the game this morning as well, but I actually watched there's a 12-minute gameplay thing on IGN showing it off, and you're right, it does have it all. I think it also brings up a conversation about next gen and this gen in terms of, I think visually there's a little bit away for us to go, but we're hitting a point where a lot of developers, or most of them, can make really good looking games, or whether it's real photorealistic or if it's anime style, everyone can kind of make really good looking games, but everything in the next gen is more so going to be behind the scenes. Like, after playing Last of Us Part 2 and the stuff that AI does, like AI will just get better and better, but that's not something you're going to show off for next gen. It's just going to be something that slowly develops and gets better, and it's stuff that with computing power can help, where in this current gen probably can't do it. So games like this, the fact that it's coming to mobile, the fact that it's going to be on the PlayStation and the Switch, and they're all going to be playable because there are tricks and there are ways that they can make visually beautiful games run on all those consoles. But the gameplay and the enemies, they can keep really basic and give you different challenges by putting different enemies together, just like Breath of the Wild does. That I think we're going to see more and more of it. Fortnite, like, visually is like pretty basic, but not as a. I'm not trying to demean it, but like it's accessible for everybody because it's pretty prime colors are everywhere. You've got greens and purples. It's not about shading from this area to that area, or it's not like Horizon. You're going from a you've got to slowly transition from a grassy land into a snowy land, then into a desert, and have the snow, or in Red Dead where the snow slowly starts to build as you go more into those colder areas. It's just no. It's suddenly we're in the ice part of the map, and we're suddenly in this part of the map. So there's less computing power going into those visuals because everyone knows the tricks at this point. So that's, I think we're going to see more and more of this stuff being able to be played on mobiles and Switches and PlayStations and hopefully Xboxes, John. And yeah, it's good on it. Free. That's awesome that it's free. That's awesome for people.
Yeah, that was kind of the other point to just touch on with it. The fact that they're, it's obviously going to be monetized. It's going to have microtransactions. They've said it's all literally cosmetic. All characters can be earned and unlocked through the game, or gameplay, every dungeon, everything else is all free. But if you want some cool looking threads or, weapon skins or whatever it might be, then you've got to pay the piper, which fair. I think that might be something else that changes going into next gen as well. I think we'll see more of that, especially with the games as a service type game, the entry point being free and then you pay a la carte for what you want, because each people will get involved to a different level. But yeah, good to see them doing that. I'm quite keen. I signed up for the beta. I don't think I ever got in. But I obviously didn't because I haven't got an email about it. But yeah, free to play. I'll download it on the Switch. I'll probably stick it on my iPad and on the PC.
Nice.
Rest in peace, PlayStation. It gone until the PlayStation 5 gets here. So
yes.
We've got those pieces out of the way. There was a piece of not breaking news while you boys were doing sleep, but there was an investors call which took place with Nintendo, and they alluded to the fact that they want to continue the Switch and its form factor and the longevity and the elasticity of it going forward. They think that they've sold so well and sales are continuing to grow because they have 2 SKUs. So someone somewhere has gone, we have a handheld version of this and one that plays in the TV, so this works good. It also works good that you've got those 2 options. And they're leaning into the fact that they're going to continue this trend into 2021. So that's, if you cut through the bullshit and the shareholder crap and the, sugarcoating of things, that looks as if Nintendo are readying something else to come to market. I wouldn't want to be a betting man on putting money on what that is. It should be a pro version of the Switch, which is just a docked version that does 4K and has pretty textures and not keep up with the big boys, but is a docked at home console. You wouldn't put money on it not being something stupid though, like an even smaller Switch, or maybe just a fully portable one that's a little bit bigger, or one that's got some magic 3D camera in it, or like you play it with your toes. It's Nintendo, like you don't really know. So that's something that happened while you guys were asleep. I don't know if you've any thoughts or opinions on whether what they should be doing or why they should be doing it. I am kind of just throwing at you in the middle of the podcast and going, hey, have you got any thoughts about this? But John, would you have a big powerful Nintendo machine sat under your projector or your PC or wherever you put it?
Yes. Look, I'm in the market, considering our circumstance, for investing in a docked type Switch device again. I went from the old world, the old world we used to live in, where we went outside and commuted to work and had lunchroom breaks, and you could sit there and play a Switch and stuff. And then I downgraded to the Switch Lite, because I was like, well, this is never docked at home. And now that I'm at home all the time, I'm like, well, I wish I could be playing this on my projector. So, yeah, this is timely. I would say I'd be up for it, whether it's just like a little box or just a more powerful, higher capacity Switch. Nintendo games don't need to be more prettier than they are. Like, let's be real. Mario Odyssey looks amazing. Breath of the Wild looks amazing. They've got Astral Chain on that thing, and that looks insane. And I mean, they don't really need to be like The Last of Us 2 looking. Like, I don't want to see the pores on Mario's face, you know? I don't want to see an ingrown hair on Luigi's chin or whatever, you know? I don't need to see that shit. So, if Nintendo games are going to look, you know, polished and, you know, plastic toys and whatever, like Yoshi's Yarn, you know, and Kirby. Kirby doesn't need to be photoreal. You know, so if they just put like a compact Switch, it could look like a little Apple TV thing just sitting there. There's a little puck with a HDMI cable. I'd be down for that. You know, and I still have my Switch Lite. Cool. I'm up for that. And,
Dan, any thoughts for you?
Yeah, well, speaking of consoles that always make a profit, Nintendo always do that. They keep the price of the cost of their consoles cheap, and they sell them for Nintendo prices, and they make profit every console they sell all the time. And that's why I don't think if they do go ahead with an updated Switch, it's not going to do the 4K thing. Like, you remember how long it took them to actually use HDMI on their consoles? Like, they were running the old color cords for a while there. But I can see them bringing out an updated Switch where, you know, it can up-res the stuff to your TV. But the reason why we see so many more third-party games on the Switch, like having The Witcher or having Skyrim or whatnot, is because the Switch sold millions and millions of copies, and the cost-benefit analysis from third parties was like, well, we have to spend this amount of money to make this game work on the Switch, but it's going to be worth it because of how many are out there. And so that's why things didn't go to the Wii U, because the Wii U only sold like 12 million over its entire lifespan. And that's why third parties were like, that's not a big enough market for us to get into, so they just didn't. I think the best way for them to go is to update the Switch marginally, not a huge amount, but still have it work in the same dock that's available now. So if people want to upgrade the actual handheld itself, they can upgrade the handheld, but not have to buy the whole new thing again. And I still those comments that you just read to me, Jamie, me sound more like they will continue this selling the Switch through this year and next year, because right now it would be silly for them to start developing something else and making it, I think. But then say 2022, be like, here's a slightly upgraded Switch and it works with your current thing, and just try and keep the Switch going as long as possible before they have to totally change and do a new direction like they always do with their new consoles, where they just go out of the box, like way out of the box.
Yeah, I think they've found their niche for sure. I don't think Nintendo from now are going to be interested in having a device that doesn't do both, because one of the key statements they made as well was, look, we can put the full power of our development teams behind one SKU, essentially. Like, they're in one development environment. It's not being split out into Game Boys, 3DSs, and then home consoles, meaning that we're getting strength after strength in the titles that are coming out. I'm for it. I actually think they'll go the opposite route to what you've suggested, Dan. I don't think they upgrade the handheld. I think they'll upgrade the box. I think they'll upgrade the docking station. I think there'll be some power to that docking station that utilizes what's currently there, and then further down the road they go, here is the Switch 2 or whatever the hell they decide to call it. You know, they could call it a fucking frisbee and people would still buy it, and that will be the evolution of the Switch. But yeah, just
got that meme in my head, just like sitting here like, change my mind.
What they need to do, if they're going to introduce multiple consoles or another one, is fix their goddamn game saving and backing up your saves and where your stuff is saved. Like, all that is just shit. You know, you've got games like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, where that you can't. That's not saved to the cloud or anything, and you can't transfer that, as far as I understand. And Animal Crossing, your island is stuck to your console for now, which is dumb. You know, I don't want to have to. I sure as shit am not starting a new island if I get another Switch. I tell you that much. Like, if I upgrade to a normal Switch again, I am just going to say goodbye to that old life entirely. And Anka, I'm sorry, we're going to have to split up. We're going to have to go different ways, and you're going to get erased. Unfortunately, you know, I've got screenshots of our lives together. I'll look back on them fondly.
I'm just leaving an awkward silence here. I don't know what else to say.
Thanks for that.
Cool. Well, the big topic for this week is, we got the little bits out of the way, is Ubisoft. Now, they're doing a thing on Sunday. Well done for doing it at a weekend for everybody except you guys. I mean, it's first thing like Monday morning for yous, but such is your beautiful Australian way of life. You have to get sucker punched somewhere. The conference, if you want to call it that, showcase, whatever, I don't know what they're calling it, but they're going to show us some video games. Do we have any thoughts on what we are going to see? And I'm going to limit yous because we're already 36 minutes into a podcast, but what you think we're going to see, and 2 surprises that you personally think that we're going to see. So Dan, I'll let you lead off.
Well, I got a few. I don't know how many you guys have, so I'm not sure if someone else wants to start in case I steal some.
Go ahead.
Let's go.
All right. So I think, and I messaged you guys the other day about this, I think Ubisoft are going to come out pretty early on in the conference and just say all the games today are going to be free upgrades from your PlayStation 4 to your PlayStation 5 and utilizing Xbox's smart delivery. I think they're all going to say that. It's just a blanket thing that they're going to make all their games do. I think there's the obvious ones, and obviously some of these have leaked, like Far Cry. We're going to hear, I think, a February Legion release date. I think we're going to get, because they're talking about new games, and new for Ubisoft is it's still the same IP, but we're announcing a new game for that IP. So I think I'm surprised this hasn't been leaked or come out already. I think we're in the rough ballpark for another South Park game. It's been a couple of years, and those games, you have one guy doing the voice for all the characters. Like, he can just sit at home during this COVID time and just do the voices as he needs. So yeah, I had South Park in there, and I also think they will not announce a release date, but they'll have a trailer like they did for Beyond Good and Evil, where they'll have a For Honor 2 trailer. No release date, but just show that they're working on For Honor 2.
For Honors.
Plural.
Over to you, boys.
John, you can go next.
Yep. I was just thinking of that. The Beyond Good and Evil 2. Where is that? Like, we haven't heard anything about that for 20 years now. We saw like that really polished cinematic video and some example of how the world works and what it looks like, but it's gone pretty dead. And I don't know why. But clearly that game was never going to come out on current gen. That looks like a game that's going to be out on next gen. Just by the scope of that game, it just wouldn't be possible, I don't think. But hopefully we see some of that. I know it has a fan base. I personally don't care much for it. And oh man, I just drew a blank on the other one I had in mind. Oh, my brain's been turning off a lot this morning. What's another one? Oh, Skull and Bones, that pirate game.
I had that.
What the hell is happening with that? Like, that's another one where you're just like, yep, cool. I mean, this looked like it was ready to go almost, and now we've just haven't heard shit. So I'm curious really to see if those two have any showing this weekend. I would doubt it. It just doesn't feel like it. Like, the air of it isn't there. But otherwise, what can we expect? it's just an educated guess that you'd have all the other staples there, like you said. Here's another one, and it's slightly different. Enjoy. That's what I expect.
Yeah, there's not. When you talk about Ubisoft and expecting, we all know by now what to expect. That's why I thought like things that you think might be a surprise was more of a lean for a conversation, because the stuff that we know that we're going to be getting is, you know, we're obviously going to get a look at Valhalla, probably the gameplay that's already been leaked. Although if I were them, I'd be changing it because it fell on very, very deaf ears as to what that looked like and how it did. A lot of people were not impressed with what they saw in terms of this being the next gen Assassin's Creed game, although I think that's harsh. It's not a next gen Assassin's Creed game. It's a current gen Assassin's Creed game that's going to be up textured, up res and packaged for the next gen. Watch Dogs Legion, we know we're going to see more of that. Far Cry 6 got leaked, so they just went, yeah, you're going to see it in a few days. You're going to see it on Sunday. It's leaked now. So that's a thing. The thing that concerns me with all of this is Ubisoft typically don't. Well, not. I guess they have got prior form for it, but they're shooting their load all at once. Like, which of these games gets held? Because I've seen some commentary this last week actually, while people have obviously been having similar conversations to what we have. It's the topic of the week everywhere. About whether they hold Watch Dogs Legion or not. And more people seem to be saying than aren't that they think that Watch Dogs Legion will come out before the end of this year. So Assassin's Creed will be launch day for it'll be available launch day for the new consoles and probably come out before they come out on PS4, etc. But then Watch Dogs will be seen before the end of the year. I think that's game suicide. Like, Cyberpunk's coming out. Why on earth would you put Watch Dogs out within 6 months of Cyberpunk? You'd sit on it and you'd hold it until probably next year, like either fall time or springtime, or, you know, just not anywhere near Cyberpunk. Also, Assassin's Creed plays, they've got similar tropes. They're both Ubisoft games. Would you give them both launch dates near to one another? I really don't know. Far Cry, like, and then go what we've got our other staple. And Far Cry, Dan, you can probably correct me on this if I'm wrong, but that's usually a Q1 game. Like, Far Cry has been coming out kind of Q1 most of the time. Primal definitely did, and I think Far Cry 5 was a Q1 game too.
Yeah, so they're all, the way Far Cry games tend to work is they all are released 18 months apart from each other. So I think Far Cry 5 was in March 2018. Far Cry was Feb 2019. That was a year. Then I think Far Cry 4 was... Oh no, Far Cry 4, they had Far Cry Primal. Was... Yeah, March 2016. Okay.
Yeah. So they've all been kind of Q1 games. So the thing is, like, it's that whole thing that EA do where you start stepping on your own toes. So whilst we're going to see all of these games, I'm kind of hoping that they go, you know, yes, Assassin's Creed is coming this year. Watch Dogs Legion is Q2 next year. Maybe Far Cry is Q1 of next year. But the thing becomes then, you know, there are all these franchises that they kind of annualized that they then stepped away from. Like, Assassin's Creed is no longer an annual franchise because people got burned out on it, and the quality dropped massively. So I think that they could be putting themselves in a precarious position moving forward into next gen. And I haven't given my surprise stuff because you've both picked them, which was going to be obvious. I mean, the things that people want to see and maybe aren't expecting to see, so would still be surprised by, are Skull and Bones and Beyond Good and Evil. Skull and Bones, I think, is in trouble. I think it's been in trouble for a long time because it would have been here by now. You know, that was their Singapore team, was it not? Ubisoft Singapore that were working on that game.
Yeah, they were.
And a lot of the mechanics and what happens in it, I think I remember saying this at the time. We would have seen this back in the Game Plug days, this game. We've had a conversation about Skull and Bones before. And I think I remember saying then, like, it looks like they took the best parts of Black Flag and have just ran with it. So they've kept the water combat and the ship combat in the last few Assassin's Creed games. So where's its relevance? Like, we thought it was going to compete back then anyway with what Rare were doing with Sea of Thieves, and that's obviously come out and had its success and had its foibles and corrected its course and changed its stuff and pissed Chunt off a bit, a lot of a bit, but just, do you know what I mean? Like it's been done, so yeah, I think that game's in quite a lot of trouble. I hope we see it. I think it was one of the games I've always been more excited for from Ubisoft, but I think they dropped that. A lot of people thinking they're going to drop the what's it called, the roller derby game, like.
I was going to ask
Roller Champions.
I don't think that game's ready either. I think it's it had was it an alpha, a closed alpha or something, and they took feedback and cancelled their beta based on that feedback, which means they've gone, fuck, this thing needs to go back in the oven. Like so everybody thinking that it's going to be when it's available today thing. I don't see that. I think their battle royale game is going to fall on its face.
Hyperscape.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept. The whole the world disappearing around you rather than a ring closing in. That's super cool, but there's enough battle royale games that I just don't think it's going to be relevant. The market is literally saturated with free to play battle royale nonsense, and unless you're Fortnite, you're not going to earn them big bucks. Apex is a good game. Like the gunplay in Apex is built off Titanfall. It's good, so it did well. But Ubisoft, other than Siege, not really known for their first-person shooter experiences. Division, etc., is all third-person action kind of game. So yeah, I think that's going to fall on its arse. Although I do think it could be and it's out today. That could be there. It's free to download for everybody today. So yeah, that's kind of my take on what I think we're probably going to see.
I know you spoke about, like, between now and say the end of March, there was like Valhalla, Far Cry, Watch Dogs, Skull and Bones are all meant to be released within this time frame. You also got that Gods and Monsters game that they made, sort of as the spin-off with Assassin's Creed and all the trying to do that stuff. I didn't play Odyssey yet, I know, but yeah, against the mythical monsters, and they decided to make gods and monsters out of that. I don't know.
I'd like to see that be the it's available now thing. If they do one of those, I think the Gods and Monsters game could be a shout.
I still think though, if Assassin's Creed releases in October like it normally does, they would still, and they've known to do this, release one of the other games in November, and then they wouldn't, and then have another game in Feb and another game in March.
But then what do they have for next year?
That's what I think. Skull and Bones won't actually make it. Skull and Bones won't make it this financial quarter, which they're trying to aim for. I think that's what they'll move. Assassin's Creed, you had what was before Odyssey?
Origins.
Remind me. Origins. You had Origins, Odyssey, year break, Valhalla, and then you'll have another Assassin's Creed next year again. It's like they do 2 years on, 1 year off. And I think they'll keep at that, and there'll be another Assassin's Creed next year.
I think maybe a way that they could do what I'm scared of is, and Ubisoft do this a good bit, is they get very about the money. So what I think they might do is rush everything out now, because they missed a lot of these marks this year, right? Things like Watch Dogs Legion should already be out. A lot of those games got pushed. Like, a lot of them got pushed. That Rainbow Six Quarantine game was basically finished, and it's been pushed indefinitely because of the current goings on.
I don't think it's going to be called Quarantine anymore.
No, it'll be rebranded and probably reworked in some ways. So there's a lot there that they had to move. So do they now shit the pants and go, we need to actually bring some money in, so we need to ship all of this stuff, and most of it releases subpar or unfinished or irrelevant? I hope they don't, because I think Ubisoft, I know for all the shit that they get, they wound up making some pretty decent games in the last few years. They've earned a bit of a badge of quality back. So yeah, to see that kind of all get lost and shot on this round of games would be a bit of a kick in the dick. But yeah, I'm excited to watch it. It's on 5 p.m. here on Sunday. What are you shaking your head at, Chin?
No one here's talked about the Raving Rabbids. I mean, that should be on the top of everybody's mind.
That's what I also had.
Everybody wants the Raving Rabbids. Mario and the Raving Rabbids 2 or something, or Assassin's Creed Valhalla Raving Rabbids, you know. Division Raving Rabbids, you know. Everybody wants that. Everyone.
Do you reckon that Nintendo will have a new crossover with them?
Yeah, I do. That was my other one, where I think there will be some type of Nintendo Ubisoft partnership.
So where do you put that?
It's here under Beyond and Good and Evil 2. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, I believe you. Yeah.
Share screen.
What do you see them sharing it with? Do you think they change property or it stays with Mario?
No, I don't. The thing is, I don't know how well
Metroid
Mario Rabbids sold. I think it sold really well. I think everything on the Switch sells really well. But yeah, I can see them just doing a sequel if they want to. But I think I can just see some type of crossover on the Switch.
There's an anniversary coming up for Metroid.
What, of when they announced the game 5 years ago?
Oh, just Metroid as a thing. Since the first game. But yeah, they announced Metroid Prime 4 like 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
So last question for the week then, staying on the Ubisoft thing, what do you want to see most? Like, what's the thing that you actually want to see from this presentation? What are you excited to see more of? Chunt, you can go first this time, just in case Dan steals yours.
Yeah. Well, I'm already getting Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is the one Assassin's Creed time period that I always wanted besides Feudal Japan. So I'm kind of already getting what I wanted. And a lot of the Ubisoft properties never really hit with me. Like, I don't know, there's just something about them that I just don't like. But, you know, if I really had to pick something else out of the air, pretty bad. I can't even think of one. That's how much I'm invested into their properties. That roller derby one. Show me what's happening with that, because I was actually looking forward to it. You know, bring that back, maybe repolish or some shit. I don't know. That's me.
Dan, what do you want to watch?
Just Dance. No. No, my dream one would be Splinter Cell, but that's not going to happen. It'll be funny based on our conversation the other week if they come out and announce a Splinter Cell TV show. That'd be hilarious. There'd be some type of TV thing, I reckon.
Yeah,
I'd put a bet on the bins. I also used to love Tom Clancy's Hawks. I love flying planes. It's good times. I got Ace Combat in VR for that reason.
Sweet.
I wouldn't mind a return to the Tom Clancy's Hawks franchise, but yeah, Splinter Cell that would get me, but I don't know how you do that in an open world Ubisoft style game like they do now.
Yeah, the infinitely monetizable game.
It's just Ghost Recon.
Yeah, pretty much. Which they've pretty much shit canned. It'd be interesting to see if there's like a DLC or something for that. It landed bad.
I reckon we're another year away for that. Another year.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see. I think for me...
Also, sorry, one before you go, I'm just going to steal it. Also, you know, it'd be nice to see an Assassin's Creed Japanese centered game, samurai game. That'd be fun.
What, like 3 days before Sekiro comes out? Not Sekiro. Ghost of Tsushima. There's been a lot, all right. There's been a lot of Japanese.
Yeah. Neo too.
Good times.
Me, I'm a bit struggle city as well, because I'd say Watch Dogs Legion. Genuinely, like Watch Dogs 2 is banging, and anybody who doesn't own it and owns a PC which is capable of playing video games, make sure you watch the conference and get a free copy of it from Ubisoft. They're giving out a free copy of Watch Dogs 2 on PC. It's wicked. It's a really, really good game. It's fun to just run around San Francisco as a hacker. Like, you don't have to pay any attention to what's going on, just go hack random shit through San Francisco. It's a good game. So I want to see more of what's going on with that, but I think in terms of like excitement levels, like Skull and Bones. And I'm dead on that. Like, I think it has the possibility to be the things that Sea of Thieves isn't. And I think we've discussed this on the podcast at times, where Chunt and I have tried to play Sea of Thieves together a number of times, and I back out all the time because there's no sense of progression for me. I need a carrot to chase. I need a, you know, oh, hey, you get this amount XP or this shiny thing or this legendary item. I need to see like stat bars progressing and RPG mechanics, which it doesn't have. Ubisoft are known for having that in their games. So if they can merge something of like what Rare have done with Sea of Thieves and incorporate that into a pirate game, which is not cartoon and realistic and bloody and violent, I am all over that. Absolutely all over it. But I think I'm going to be disappointed on that front, because I really don't think we're going to see it. I think it's in, as I've just spoken about, I think it's in dire straits. And of course we're going to see Just Dance. So you know, we'll get to see some people dance probably on some kind of weird Skype call where like people's heads start ducking up and down and they do the whole thing. Interesting on the TV thing, Dan, because Ubisoft served as the consultancy for Mythic Quest. So whether Mythic Quest maybe do a little bit of a season 2 trailer thing with them for their TV thing. Although how the fuck have they filmed that, because they've all been locked down? Neither of you two have seen the quarantine episode yet, have you? You have to watch that. You have to watch that. I tried to find it for you and I can't. It was proving difficult, but so good. I'd take that, obviously. Big fan, hyper fan. Watch Mythic Quest. It's the best thing since video game TV began.
It is pretty good. I enjoyed that show.
And Dan didn't.
Raving Rabbit.
Because Dan sucks.
It was fine.
Fucking hell, Dan.
It was a show you could watch.
It was more than fine. More than fine. Don't take me on this. Right. Well, that's all we had to talk about, and I'm not going to try and stretch us out for another 3 minutes to make an hour. So I guess next time we come back, we'll know what Ubisoft have got to show us. We'll probably be disappointed by it, if current trends is anything to go by. Is there anything else happening next week that we know about or are aware of?
I'm just hanging out for this Xbox July event. Bring it on.
Nintendo showing something tomorrow, today, now. Are they?
Yeah, Ghost is getting released on Friday, so I would have, played a little bit of it by the next week's podcast, but yeah, week after that.
Some initial impressions from you.
Check out our review.
On Ghost then.
John, are you getting it day one?
No. No, man.
Well, I'll have my
so many games, man. I've got way too many games to justify buying another one at the moment. I haven't even bought Final Fantasy VII
Animal Crossing.
I know. Like, I bought the PS4 because of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I haven't bought that yet because I bought everything else. Like God of War and all that shit I'm going to get through, and, really good problem to have.
You better put Witcher down and start getting through that back catalogue, mate, because it's only going to get bigger.
I know.
Yep. Right, well, enjoy Titanfall, Chunt. Seriously, stop Witcher and play that. It'd be a nice little palate cleanse, and you'll get through it in probably 1 sitting if you really committed to it, but 2 for sure. Yeah. Dan, enjoy playing 2K or whatever you managed to play before Ghost of Tsushima comes out.
Go play something.
I'll try not to drown in Destiny and play more shit. I sit, when you sit down and you go, right, I want to get through more of that, and then I read something or a tweet or see something's happened. I was like, I'll just hop in and do that, and then 3 hours pass and I go to bed. So I'm going to challenge myself not to do that this week. I want to finish. I want to finish Detroit. Finish Detroit and get a bit further in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Is the plans for me. Plus, being a parent and not having time to play video games and stuff.
I have no idea what that's like.
Minor detail, mate.
Don't ever know what that's like. I don't promote it. It's not something that I'm sitting here waving the flag for. No, I'm joking. It's rewarding. It's rewarding. Just keep telling yourself it's rewarding.
Yeah. That's all right.
And on that note, I did manage to stretch it out for pretty much another 3 minutes and get us to the hour mark.
We did.
Bye.
Bye.